Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of congregational humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. I'm David Breeden, Senior Minister. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Sunday Assembly for October. I've been through some kind of time warp. November 27th, maybe it's the weather that's gotten me. If you've been here many times or if this is one of your first visits, we're delighted that you are here with us. Both in this room and online, we are all part of one gathered community. So folks online, we hope you'll check in with each other and make use of the chat feature to say good morning. Those of you in physical space here, we hope you will do the same. We hope you'll join us downstairs for our mini meal after assembly this morning. Let's see what we're having. Black bean burger bar. Ooh, and one of my favorites, ballpark scramble, which is kielbasa, potatoes, onions, and sauerkraut. While you're downstairs, please make a stop by the card basket where you can send a note to folks who are shut in, unable to attend assembly, and also to people that we mention in the joys and sorrows part of our assembly. I'll note that there's no 12:15 programming in the Dietrich room today. We'll resume that on the first Sunday of December, next week. And I'll invite you to plan ahead a little bit. On December the 10th, which is a Saturday, at 6 p.m. in this space, we're going to hold a Blue Holiday service. Blue Holiday. Some places call this Blue Christmas. It's an intimate gathering that sets aside time to name the grief that can be especially acute at this time of year. Folks who have experienced loss or who are going through a significant transition, and in fact, anyone is welcome to come. We'll have an opportunity to light candles, to name our griefs if we want to, and hear some music and words of comfort. If you have any questions about that or want to know more, just let me know. December 10th, 6 p.m., Blue Holiday. Our theme this month is change. Here are the words of singer-songwriter Holly Near. Can we be like drops of water falling on stone, splashing, breaking, dispersing in air, weaker than stone by far, but be aware that as time goes by, the rock will wear away and the water comes again. Come, let us gather in community.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here again and to be performing some solo repertoire for you today. And I was trying to convey some pieces that could express our theme of the month, which is change. And following with that reasoning, I came up with these three pieces. The first one that I will play is by a Mexican composer, Ponce. He is well known for a couple of songs, among them Little Star, Estrellita, which probably many of you have heard. But he was actually a pianist and he composed a lot of piano music which is not really that often performed, especially outside Mexico, of course. And I chose this piece because it's very interesting to see, I think it depicts very well the first definition that I have of change, in which it starts with a very simple theme, very consonant, and as the piece goes on, actually this theme starts evolving and he starts presenting this theme in all sorts of different ways and context with a very, I can say, a very different ending from what we would expect. So this, for me, it's really one of those depictions in music of how change happens. The second piece that I will play, it's a small mazurka by Chopin. And again, where do I find change in here? Well, it's a very short piece, but it has three very distinct parts, and I think can depict how easily we can actually, and how fast we can actually change things in the way that Chopin does it, very organically, yet very contrasting among them. And as a final piece, I will play the Toccata by Aram Hachaturian. And here change is expressed in two dimensions. The first one is lineal, because you can hear a distinct first part, very rhythmic, very energetic, contrasting with the middle section, which is all the opposite to this. And then a third section, which is similar to the first. That's in the linear. But we can also observe the change in horizontal parts, because you will see how this piece actually uses a lot of, we'd say, micro pieces that are evolving all the time, and he only changes one or two notes at a moment. It's really within the style of what can be called minimalistic. So there is also that change going on. Anyway, I hope you will enjoy them.
What a treat. Thank you, Amos. We continue our assembly by lighting our chalice as we remember each week one of the Unitarian Universalist principles or one of the 4 FUS aspirations. Today, we light the chalice for the 4th FUS aspiration. We aspire to support one another's journey toward meaning and connection in the here and now. And now let's sing together. You may rise as you are able. We're going to sing "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." It's number 16 in the Gray Songbook, but also the words will appear up on the screen. "'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, and by turning we come round right." Please remain standing for our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you. Please be seated. So now we have time for all ages. We have some young people in the space with us and plenty of young at heart. You all have probably had opportunity this week to make gratitude lists or say in various ways what you're grateful for. I expect you are grateful for home and family and good food, and many of us for good health, and maybe for cranberry sauce and dressing and so on. I would love to hear from us, and I'm going to ask you just to kind of shout it out, what you're grateful for this morning. And that may be what you're grateful for about this community, about First Unitarian Society, about this larger community of Minneapolis, or whatever it is this morning that you're grateful for. And we're just going to share those, because I just think gratitude is like lotion. We just put it on ourselves and it soothes a dry spirit. Or it's like a muscle and it gets stronger the more that we use it. It's easy sometimes to grumble, and there's plenty that's wrong in the world. Sometimes we can even be grateful for what's wrong in the world because it spurs us to more action. You the vote. So shout it out, and I'll try to repeat them. And if folks online care to put something in, and if anybody's watching the chat online and you want to shout those out, we'll hear that. I just want to hear what people are grateful for.
Our new music director and the music programming.
Our new music director and the programming at FUS. Yay. Amos, grateful for Amos. Beautiful weather? Yes, lovely weather. We'll take that sunshine. Change.
My newspaper was delivered early.
Oh my gosh. That's something. My newspaper was delivered early.
To be here.
To be here. To be here now. Thank you. Oh, Allison and our religious education program. Yes, thank you. And all the people who volunteer for RE.
FUS friends.
FUS friends.
My dog.
Your dog. Yes. All the pets and animals. Many meals. Yes. Cam. We all woke up. That's right. This beautiful building. Yes.
You.
Oh, you and you. Rev David. Indeed. Our tech team. Our tech team. The election. Free and fair election.
The smooth running from our financial director.
Oh boy, that's a personal call out. The smooth running from our financial director. We're not running from our financial director. Anybody online have anything to share?
Yes, family.
Family.
Yep.
Okay.
That man.
That man, another one. We got another for Mike and Mike's family here.
Kate in the office.
Kate in the office.
Hybrid offerings.
Hybrid offerings. I love that. We are adaptable.
Someone watching from Boston.
Someone from Boston watching. We are adaptable. Well, we could go on all day, and perhaps we should. I think that doing actively saying what we're grateful for, actively saying this is good, and it turns what we have into enough. I've read the quote that gratitude is like a flashlight. Gratitude's like a flashlight. It shines a light on what we have, and it makes what we have enough. There's not anything more or different, but we can see it, and because we see it, we don't take it for granted. We are grateful for the young people in our community, for more seasoned folks and younger folks. We are grateful for the intergenerational nature of this community. And at this moment, we are going to invite our young people to go to their religious education classes and the people who teach them to go. And we are so, so grateful for all of you in this community. Let's sing you out.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. And change will come to you. Be the light you want to shine in the world. Be the light you want to shine in the world. Be the light you want to shine in the world, and change will come to you.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is George Hutchinson, and I'm currently serving as the chair of the Board of Trustees, coming to you live and in person. Now, as Kelly has started in this season of Thanksgiving, I'm grateful for many things, not the least of which is this community. Have a look around. Consider for a moment some of the things that we have here. We have a network of friends and acquaintances. We have a Mahjong club, which I just started going to. It's great. We have a group of social justice teams promoting change and being quite effective. We have leadership with a national profile. And we have a history of influential activism, and later this morning, we have a hot lunch. So how do we keep all of this going? Well, we do it ourselves, don't we? We greet newcomers and build friendships. We step up to serve in leadership. We volunteer to teach children, and we need more volunteers, by the way. We support friends when they are suffering or in difficulties, and we celebrate the seasons. We pay attention to what is happening in the world. To do this, we make donations to upgrade this building. Some of you remember that campaign. We make monthly contributions through automatic payments. We make occasional donations for special projects, and we stuff cash in the jar at lunch. We also write checks. And together we do things both great and small. So, if you are a monthly giver, thank you. Your consistent contributions make paying the bills easier and keep us on an even financial keel. If you're an occasional contributor, thank you. Your generosity makes a big difference. If you're a remote web participant, thank you. Your participation and contributions are as important as we extend our reach beyond these mid-century walls. And if you're new to FUS, thank you for being here and welcome. So for those of you that would like to make a financial contribution, we have several ways of doing it. There it is. This is the web page. You can click on that link in the upper right corner. You can also use PayPal to make a contribution, or something called the Vanco mobile app, which I have never used, but I understand it works. Is that okay? And last but not least, you can always send a check. For those of you who are in the building and would like to make a contribution, we have a person in the office who can help you with that after assembly. So thank you for making this place work.
First Unitarian Society is a congregational humanist community. We are here for each other. On Sundays, we take a few moments to reflect on the joys, the milestones, and the sorrows of human experience. In doing this, we remind ourselves of the value of a moment of stillness. And we're reminded to stay in touch with our own humanity. As a gathered community, we do this so that no one among us is alone, either in celebrating life's joys or in facing life's tragedies and burdens. We are here for each other. This week, we send healing thoughts to FUS member Pat Jordan, who had surgery this week to repair a broken arm resulting from a fall. Pat is recovering at home. And this coming week, FUS member Sharon Zingery is having surgery. Her sister Teresa is with her in Chicago to offer care. We're thinking of you all. Now we take a few moments to reflect on our world and those who work to comfort and heal the suffering and those who work for justice.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
so much, Amos. Thank you so much. Wow. Well, back in the year 2000, the American writer Bell Hooks wrote this: I feel our nation is turning away from love, moving into a wilderness of spirit, so intense we may never find our way home again. I write of love to bear witness both to the danger in this movement and to call for a return to love. Further, she writes, we do not have to love, we choose to love. When we understand love as the will to nurture our own and another's spiritual growth, it becomes clear that we cannot claim to love if we are hurtful and abusive. Love and abuse cannot coexist. End quote. That's what I want to talk about today. Our theme for the month of November, as Rev Kelly mentioned, is change. And thanks so much, Amos, for thinking about the change in music. Since I don't know anything about music, it's really cool to learn something like that. I've been talking about change not only as inevitable, but as Heraclitus taught, it's actually our only constant. Change is everywhere, from, yes, our climate, to our political world, to the nation's spiritual malaise, to our personal relationships and our own bodies and the bodies of those we love. As creatures capable of strategizing and planning, and as people who believe that human beings can fix human problems, the work for every one of us is to minimize the damage and maximize the love. We can choose to despair, or we can learn to embrace the fact that change will happen, and then always we return to love. To repeat those words of Bell Hooks, who saw us as a nation, quote, moving into a wilderness of spirit, so intense we may never find our way home again, she wrote. I write of love to bear witness both to the danger in this movement and to call for a return to love. Change and love. By the way, the title of my talk today comes from the author who calls himself Lemony Snicket. Love can change a person the way a parent can change a baby, awkwardly and often with a great deal of mess. You may recognize yourself in that statement. U.S. Army strategists invented the acronym VUCA, V-U-C-A, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That acronym has become popular also among business consultants. Now, clearly the Army strategists who coined the term thought that some situations are more VUCA than other situations. Now, in war scenarios, that might be the case, and maybe also in business, but in life, both personal and in social life, I will agree with Heraclitus. The human situation is always volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. The Army also invented the little acronym SNAFU. I want to talk about another acronym that I made up because I don't want to be left out here. I just invented SNEB, S-N-E-B, situation normal, everything's burning. Always. Now, I agree with the late Bell Hooks. What we have here is a failure to love. What we have here is a failure. And yes, in American movies, you can't talk about, they're guys, right? They can't do that. But yes, they had a failure to love there as well. We have a failure in our country to love. And as Cornel West put it, justice is what love looks like in public. He's right about that as well. As Bell Hooks saw coming, this nation is now in the throes, I would say, of a love crisis, which is a spiritual crisis. Our present situation can maybe turn out a couple of different ways, We have already entered a period of social retrenchment. Hard-won freedoms are being taken away. Thugs are emboldened to maim and kill people for who they are, and the processes of liberal democracy are being questioned. Justice is what love looks like in public. How do we Unitarian Universalists and Humanists, a tiny band of liberal folks, how do we affect the direction of a nation in this VUCA time? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, and the SNEB time, situation normal, everything's burning. And we're a small group and maybe getting a little bit smaller. Since the pandemic occurred, something over 50 UU congregations have closed their doors permanently. The situation is VUCA and SNEB. But our liberal tradition has the resources to reverse the trend, I believe. I've talked a lot about the thought of the 20th century pragmatist philosopher John Dewey. He and bell hooks, I think, would have had a great conversation had they ever met. And Dewey said this: democracy is a form of government only because it is a form of moral and spiritual association. Moral and spiritual association, getting together. Dewey saw democracy as a moral argument. According to Dewey, and I think he's correct about this, were democracy only a political argument, perhaps other forms of government would be just as good to represent the governed. Maybe. Yet, from a moral sense, democracy is key to human flourishing because democracy begins in an assumption of an individual with inherent rights and responsibilities embedded in a societal framework which also has rights and responsibilities. Those are debatable and debated. That's what democracy is about. This framework works due to conversations about moral and spiritual associating and what democracy requires. Democracy is also a method of congregating, as George mentioned this morning. And it's a hard-won way to do what we do. Now, as many of you know, I spoke last Sunday morning in Boston, First Church of Boston. That church was founded in 1630. That's a while back. In the Boston of those days, anyone who did not attend this particular Puritan church on Sunday morning was fined for failing in their religious duties. Now, just think about that a moment. Wouldn't it be nice if we still did that? We send cops door to door and ticket everyone who doesn't bother to come to church this morning. No, it wouldn't be nice. It wasn't nice in 1630, and it's not nice nowadays. Bell Hooks gets it right. Force is not the way to engender love. Force is not the way to address our deep national spiritual crisis. So reflect on that a moment. The Massachusetts Bay Colony, where Boston was a revolt against the theocracy of the British Empire. Many then revolted against the theocracy that was the Massachusetts Bay Colony. A few weeks ago, I talked about Anne Hutchinson, who revealed the Puritans to be puritanical, right? And the Quaker Mary Dyer hanged on Boston Common by the Puritans being puritanical. They marched her to the hanging tree surrounded by beating drums so that no one could hear her speaking. That's how dangerous theocracy considers ideas. Now, that was a cold and brutal theocracy. Yet, just as theocracy has again and again been the project of Christians in this nation, it has also failed over and over again. Religious rebellion is in the DNA of Americans, and so is religious and philosophical variety and plenitude. Freedom of speech, the practice of democracy, these we believe in, and these are in our DNA. In this VUCA time, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, and in this snebby time, situation normal, everything's burning, we are here to stand for those words that John Dewey wrote. Democracy is a form of government only because it is a form of moral and spiritual association. Moral and spiritual getting together. But yes, democracy is also slow and messy, and some people object to that. The Unitarian Universalists and we humanists exist as traditions because of democracy. Why? Well, since we've long been on the heretical margins, we depend upon the facts of freedom. We have to have them because everyone would like to impose their own creeds and dogmas on people like us. Today, as more and more people are voting with their feet and leaving all forms of organized public religion, as I see it, our heretical traditions are more important than ever. Exactly because our traditions have been practicing how to live moral, spiritual, democratic, and secular lives for a very, very long time. I must have gotten too excited. Fortunately, that didn't catch fire. It's some kind of thing from it. We know how to be heretical, and we know how to practice democracy. That's what we do. As all American religious institutions suffer losses of members, I frankly can't help seeing this moment in our nation's history as a marvelous and wondrous and very cool thing. Because, as theologians, philosophers, and anthropologists have been pointing out for years now, in the Western world, by which I mean Europe and its many colonies, such as the U.S., we have developed a very, extremely weird idea about what religion is. I've talked about the origins of this oddity before. Fact is, what we call the Reformation, which began that split between the dominant Roman Catholic Church and all those Protestantisms that then cropped up, the Reformation introduced extreme doubt into the minds of many Europeans. As the fractures turned into chasms, various strains of Protestantism just kept splintering and splintering. And doubt just kept growing and growing and growing. It even resulted in humanism. The resulting wars of religion in Europe killed, starved, and displaced hundreds of millions of people, eventually spinning off the Pilgrims and the Puritans and the Presbyterians and the Lutherans and all those sorts of Baptists and also Universalists and Unitarians, those that eventually became humanists in this congregation. Here's what many miss about all that falderall that seems so long ago. It's this: we are still living in it. What came out of the disaster is the notion that something called religion can be separated out from other aspects of life. In order to stop the killing, Europeans began identifying things called religions. Thus, people could say, "Hey, I'm a Unitarian, please don't kill me." And certain flavors of Christians wouldn't kill you, and other flavors of Christians would kill you. And then slowly, Europeans and their colonists began to fetishize this thing called religion. This new concept swept through Europe. Then Europeans, with this new concept of religion as being distinct from other forms of human activity, swept across the globe, colonizing peoples. When they showed up somewhere, they said, "And we're Christian. Christianity is the only true religion. What are you?" Well, you better convert, because obviously you're wrong, because we're sweeping the world with Christianity. In comparing, well, yes, those Europeans always decided that their brand of religion was the right and proper one, and the other peoples were lacking. What the colonizing Europeans missed, And what's easy to miss today is that for most human beings in most places, what we call religion is actually culturally based. It's just another thing that you do because you happen to be from that particular place. You honor your dead in a particular way, you get married in a particular way, and you eat food and dress in particular ways. Sure, the peoples on our planet have gotten considerably more homogenized in the last few centuries, but the fetishizing of certain practices as required or prohibited by certain labels we call religion is still a very odd concept. It worked to stop the European religious wars, but it became its own kind of monstrosity. And if my crystal ball is working properly, that fetishization of what we call religion is what Americans are more and more ignoring with this movement that we call spiritual but not religious, which also is an acronym, by the way, SBNR. So VUCA, SNEB, SBNR, it's all a very large snafu, isn't it? As I see it, here's the fact. The decline in organized religion is not the decline of the human religious impulse. It's merely a reorientation back to how people have always done religion. Actually, as I see it, as both the Taoist, Lao Tzu, and the Mandalorian would say, this is the way to do religion. Now, don't get me wrong, congregations are not closing down anytime soon, but here's the thing, organized religions are to the human spiritual impulse as restaurants are to human nutrition. I would say merely a tiny aspect. The restaurant analogy is where congregations fit into the landscape of democracy, religion, and spirituality. It's the nation's future to be different than we are today. Let's face it, at the moment, most denominations in the United States are sustaining a model of religious practice, not innovating models of religious practice. Now, what will innovation look like? Well, of one thing I'm sure, all liberal religious institutions are first and foremost scrambling to figure out what to do next because everything's burning. Thriving is another sort of challenge, but the answer is far more than merely an attempt to keep up with the times. I think we in the United States are currently at the beginnings of a second Reformation. In the face of that, traditionalists are working hard to reestablish Christian democracy. That's predictable. Their success can be measured in laws that make no sense outside of Christian thinking. Overturning Roe versus Wade is a perfect example of that. As I said earlier, dreams of theocracy have haunted the American mind since the very beginning of the European invasions of this continent. Those dreams have succeeded in doing real damage over the years. People get hanged, they get shot, they get imprisoned, and they get intimidated into silence. Driving through rural Wisconsin 2 days ago, I saw a sign nailed to a fence post. God has blessed America. He sent Trump. Now, that's a traditionalist response to this new Reformation. That sign in rural Wisconsin perfectly exemplifies the wilderness of spirit so intense we may never find our way home again that Bell Hooks wrote about. As a nation, we have turned away from love. Our job is to return to love, as Bell Hooks is saying beyond the grave. We are well suited to this messy task, I believe, because we are iconoclasts. We are heretics. That's our tradition. Many Americans over time have dreamed of establishing a theocracy in this country, but every attempt has failed. And to me, that is a very cool and glorious fact about this nation. Dewey said it, democracy is a form of government only because it's a form of moral and spiritual association. Moral and spiritual getting together. And yes, Lemony Snicket put it well. Love can change a person the way a parent can change a baby, awkwardly and often with a great deal of mess. Yes, we have a mess. Our situation today is messy, but it's also normal. Everything's burning. So, I invite us to love the mess. I invite us to love the change. And let's begin here and now to resettle America, and let's get it right this time.
My. Well, let us embrace the change and stand up if you're willing and able, and we'll sing Blue Boat Home. It's number 1064 in the Teal Songbook, and of course the words will appear up here.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, sail, and moon, my brother, as I ply the starry sea, leading over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hear the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Please be seated, and if you will repeat with me our extinguishing the chalice words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
Amazing. Thank you, Amos. Go out into the world. Be fearless. Ask questions. Hold on to what is good. Strengthen the weak. Comfort the fearful. Serve the suffering. Do what makes you come alive. Rejoice in the power of the human spirit. So may it be.